Welcome to Across Africa, our weekly look at stories from across the continent. I'm Georgia Calvin-Smith, and this week, South Africa's Khoi community is split on how to best protect their heritage on a site in Cape Town earmarked to house Amazon's African headquarters. Judges ordered a stop to construction, but some of the indigenous locals are eager for the jobs development might bring. Also, rights campaigners in Congo-Brazzaville have welcomed a legal crackdown on physical, sexual and economic violence against women, but say that follow-up is crucial. If the laws aren't backed up with enforcement, little will change. And Libyan artisans work painstakingly around the clock to restore old copies of the Quran. The cost of buying new ones has gone up, and as practicing Muslims celebrate the holy month of Ramadan, many are fixing up holy books with sentimental value. But first, the Khoi people of South Africa are in deep discussion about the best way to honour their ancestral lands in Cape Town. The construction of Amazon's African headquarters was temporarily suspended by the High Court earlier this year, with the judge ordering meaningful engagement with indigenous communities before it can go ahead. But whilst some don't want to see it happen at all, others are keen for the jobs that the development might bring. Our team report.
This is a sacred land. So right here in our hand, the dust of our ancestors, get it lifted up.
Some Khoi leaders are holding a cleansing ceremony on a heritage site they are fighting to protect in court. Tariq Jenkins represents the Khoi people whose ancestors' cattle grazed these lands for centuries before the Dutch arrived here in 1652.
Where we are standing right now was where land was stolen for the first time in our country. The Dutch East India Company, which was then the largest company on earth, had gifted its employees land and farms here on these embankments. These rivers are our blood rivers that were fought against colonial powers. So it is a place that is of extraordinary spiritual and historical significance.
This is what they're trying to stop from going ahead. The construction of an almost €300 million mixed-use development with Amazon's African headquarters. The Khoi community is united to protect the site, but are divided about its future. Chief Senzile Khoison's group of traditional leaders signed an agreement with developers. It's because they've been promised the development will include a heritage cultural centre.
Because we were tired of gridlock, we were tired of our demands not being heard. And from engaging the developer, we were able to secure something that no other institution, specifically government, has ever promised us, has ever come to the party with, and that is a fully fledged, world-class First Nations precinct in the middle of a development.
The court has suspended construction until all parties have agreed, but the judgment has been appealed.
Congo-Brazzaville's beefed up legislation aimed at stopping violence against women. The changes cover physical and sexual abuse as well as social and economic violence. Our correspondent tells us more.
Dieudonné Tombo was 31 when her husband died of a heart attack. In addition to having to deal with the pain of her loss, she faced the hostility of her in-laws. They held her responsible for her husband's death, even though she was away when it happened. They also stripped her of all her belongings the day after the funeral.
They took everything. They didn't even leave me a fork. They even took the bed where my husband and I used to sleep together. They didn't allow me to shower, and they didn't give me any food or any water.
Dieudonné's case is no exception. Many widows in the Republic of Congo face similar treatment. Now a new law seeks to outlaw such abuse along with other forms of violence against women. These include marital rape and revenge porn, crimes which until now were not punishable by law. Khedong Kuka is an activist. She's been defending the rights of Congolese women for years. She says the law is a major step forward.
I believe that this law will bring something to the life of every woman. It will help them to speak out because women are often scared to report acts of violence, and they're not always aware of their rights. But the law shouldn't just be empty words. It must be applied, and a lot remains to be done in that respect.
The government says it wants more women to know about the legislation meant to protect them.
Once the law is put into effect, there will be a campaign to make sure the population knows about it and respects it. We'll rely on elected officials across the country, MPs, councilmen and traditional chiefs to raise awareness.
Under the new law, a conviction of violence against women can lead to a fine and a prison sentence of up to 20 years.
Well, in the run-up to Ramadan and for most of the holy month, workshops that restore copies of the Quran were swamped with work. Many customers chose to fix up damaged copies that they've had for generations rather than buy new ones for the holy period. Wasim Korni tells us more.
It's a very busy day in this Tripoli workshop. Workers are swamped restoring dozens of old copies of the Quran. It's a tradition to buy a Quran before the month of Ramadan in Libya, but many are now choosing to keep old versions, often inherited from loved ones.
عندنا هجوم غير عادي يعني بالنسبة لشهر رمضان. يعني الناس أغلبية الناس يعني هذا موسم شغل موسمي يعني.
يجلب لنا مجموعة من المصاحف يما من مساجد يما حاجات شخصية.
The process is meticulous. The copies in the poorest condition require hours of painstaking and thorough work. They have to be undone, restored, and then bound again. The actual work is free. The workshop only charges a few euros worth of material used to restore the Qurans. The restoration process has triggered such passion and enthusiasm that the store has organized workshops for years. Since 2008, 1,500 people have trained here.
بدينا انطلقنا من جديد، بدينا في دورات وبدينا في صيانة المصحف وكانت أهدافنا كل الجنسين الكبار والصغار.
On top of being an act of generosity for Khaled al-Drabi, restoring old copies of the Quran is also important memory work. In 14 years, close to 500,000 copies of the Muslim holy book have been given a second life here.
Now, the future of the idyllic Libyan island of Fawa is under threat. It lies off the country's west coast and has been called the most important coastal and marine site in the region. It has few visitors but is home to an array of wildlife. However, conservationists say that the fragile ecosystem could become another victim of over a decade of violence and lawlessness in Libya.
This uninhabited island off Libya's northwestern coast is home to exceptional wildlife. But Faroe Island risks becoming another victim of lawlessness as war continues in the North African nation. Archaeologist Chauki Moama has come to know the island well, drawn by its Roman history. But now, the future of the island is what concerns him and environmental activists.
The truth is that this island has been exposed to many environmental threats for over the last 30 or 40 years. They closed the Al-Kharij Lake to build the Abu Kamash factory, which is considered an environmental disaster for the area.
A petrochemical plant was dumping heavy metals into the waters for years. It has been closed, but the toxic waste lingers. Above all, intensive and unregulated fishing is a major concern. There is a legal framework to regulate these activities, but power struggles in the country have got in the way of controlling fishing. Local groups are trying their best to limit the damage.
The lake has been closed and we asked the Libyan authorities to open and restore it at its original location and state. There have been efforts from some groups to save this island through cleaning and raising awareness.
Former strongman Colonel Muammar Gaddafi launched a project in 2005 to build a luxury resort on Faroe Island. The only structure that stands from this incomplete project is a land bridge that blocks sea currents and pollutes the water. While Libya grapples with political instability and poor law enforcement, this island's future remains dim.
A Picasso exhibition has opened its doors in Senegal's capital. On display at the Dakar show are dozens of the Spanish artist's works, alongside many African pieces inspired by his style. The appreciation went both ways, though, as the aesthetic of sculpture from across the continent influenced Picasso's African period. Our team tells us more.
15 works of art by Pablo Picasso, displayed with as many ancient African artefacts that could have influenced him. The exhibition, Picasso in Dakar, pays tribute to the Spanish master's fascination with these ritual objects.
This line continues with the bridge of the nose. The ear is just sketched in. This work was placed next to or opposite a baoulé mask. The 15 pieces are real masterpieces. They're almost markers of Picasso's career. Emblematic works that allow us to understand the links, formal, spiritual, and even historical, with African art.
Archives show Picasso's first exhibition in Dakar was in 1972. The painter never set foot in sub-Saharan Africa, but his connection with the continent is real, according to one of the exhibition's curators.
It was a source of inspiration for him, but it was also a source of reflection, of deconstructing a number of certainties to really arrive at a production as remarkable as the one we're showing in Dakar.
The project has been in the works for more than 5 years, thanks to a collaboration between 4 museums on 2 continents. Dakar's Museum of Black Civilization has everything to host the exhibition.
We have the facilities, security protocols, fire safety, security cameras and everything. All the conditions are in place to ensure the safety of the works.
The Picasso exhibition is scheduled to wow art fans until the 30th of June.
Well, that's it for Across Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Take care.